What's up, people? This is We Are Animals MMA, where I'm going to preview UFC 237 and give you my breakdown and analysis of that card. That's Thug Rose versus Jessica Andrade. All right, let's start with Jose Aldo versus Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Now, this is probably one of the more better matchups on the card here. They got the former champ Jose Aldo's looking like a real animal out here, and you got Volkanovski who's coming up real big. Alexander the Great, he's 19-1, 11 KOs. He beat Chad Mendes by KO in his last fight. He's got 6 fights in the UFC, 3 KOs in the UFC, and he got about 11 KOs overall in his career. He's a very good fighter. He has a very good jab that he uses with a lot of like forward pressure, but he uses feints when he goes forward, so he's not just like running into something. He uses distance to deal with his opponent's attacks. He goes to the body and the head, so he'll use that with the jab as well to draw his opponents, to use it as a feeler. And he's very good. He has a very good lead leg high kick as well that he uses for his defense. He shells up like a high guard, high shell type of defense. He has a very nice counter overhand right that he likes to use, especially if he gets pressured. He'll drop back and throw like an counter overhand right. And also, a very good wrestler. He takes most of his opponents down. Not in his last fight, because Chapman is a very good wrestler, but he has a high level of cardio and a great output over the course of the 3 rounds. So he got a very tough matchup when he goes against Jose Aldo, the former featherweight champ of the WEC and the 2-time UFC champion. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, Jose Aldo, and people seem to forget about Jose Aldo for some reason, but he went against a very great fighter in Max Holloway. He's still very much at the top of the division, if not the #1 contender in the division. It'll probably be decided in this fight. He's a stand-up fighter. He likes to keep like a Muay Thai stance. He has very fast low kicks, which I guess there would be considered legendary low kicks. He goes to him a lot. He stopped a little bit against Max Holloway, but he was using him in his last fight. He likes to counter hard. When his opponents pressure him, he'll counter back hard. He'll stand and he will trade with you. He's a very good boxer, decent boxer. Uses the jab and check left hook. He used that against in this fight against Frankie Edgar. He has like a Muay Thai style checking kick, so he'll raise his leg up and use his hands as well to block any leg kicks. And he finished the last 2 opponents with that left hook to the body. Volkanovski likes to shell up with a high guard when he gets pressure, just covering his head, and at least his liver exposed, which Jose is brilliant at finding as well. This is gonna be a 3-round fight, so it'll probably be an even matchup as far as the cardio goes. Volkanovski has very good cardio, but Jose in a 3-round fight also has that cardio as well. So this is going to be probably a fight of the night contender for sure on this card as far as this matchup goes. But my prediction for this fight is the GOAT, Jose Aldo, as I think he'll win this fight by unanimous decision. Volkanovski is a very good wrestler, but Jose Aldo has legendary takedown defense inside the WEC and the UFC. And I think he'll be able to keep it standing, keep it at his range, land those low kicks to frustrate Volkanovski, land those counter left check hooks, and use his boxing and his superior speed to get that decision. I think it's going to be a good win, probably fight of the night, most likely. Next is the co-main event with Cannonier versus Anderson the Spider Silva. Jared Cannonier is making his sophomore debut at middleweight, coming off KO David Branch, and Anderson Silva is coming off a loss to the interim champ Israel Adesanya. All right, the Killer Gorilla. He got very good power in his hands. He KO'd David Branch in his last match at middleweight. He's a former heavyweight fighter, so he made one of the most drastic cuts, in the UFC. I believe he fought 2 times at heavyweight in the UFC, and then 3 times at light heavyweight. He dropped down to there, and now he's fighting at middleweight, and it's making his sophomore debut at middleweight. He's a very powerful striker. He has the basics, the jab, the 1-2, decent jab. Lately he's been using the low kick, the calf kick, that you see a lot of people using. But he's going against the southpaw and Silva. He liked to use his right hand. He primarily looks for the right hand to land, whether it be in a counter or off his jab. The last southpaw he faced was the light heavyweight contender Dominic Reyes, who landed a nice straight left hand on him, and then a left uppercut dropped him and KO'd Cannonier in that match. All right, Anderson Silva, the GOAT. Definitely one of the GOAT. Just 2 GOATs with this card, Jose Aldo and Anderson Silva. Their legacy is forever entrenched in the UFC history books. He's coming off a decision loss to Israel Adesanya. Definitely lost that match. He had some good moments, landing his right hooks and his jab against Izzy there. His last win was against Derek Brunson, which was a few years back. He's a very good counter striker, very creative. He'll even do like a Andy Hug, who's a former kickboxer, like a spinning heel kick. So he'll spin around and instead of going up top to like the body or to the head, he'll land the spinning kick to like the calf or the lower leg of his opponents. He likes to set up his punches, so he'll sit back, use a whole lot of hand movement in front of his face, just like act like he's blocking shots to confuse his opponents. He's a very tricky fighter, one of the trickiest in the UFC and in UFC history. In the clinch, he likes to go to the Muay Thai clinch. He'll grab around the neck, land nice knees and the elbows. He's really good everywhere. I doubt this fight will end up going to the ground. I doubt he want to play in Anderson Silva's guard, which he has great BJJ off his back as well. So he's very good everywhere. One thing I really don't like about Anderson Silva, he'll drop his hands and he will let his opponent hit his face sometimes throughout the fight. I'm not sure, is that some gamemanship? Same thing with him using the fence, backing himself against the fence and just waiting and standing there like in a parallel stance waiting for his opponent's attack. You can really, some fighters can really capitalize on that, use a lot of feints against him when he's along the fence and mix that in with some strikes, since he's just standing right there and just allowing you to score points on him and try to get an edge on him that way. But I'm gonna have to go with Anderson Silva by a 2nd round KO. I just think his experience in the striking department and Branch's inexperience in fighting a technical striker and a masterful counter striker as Anderson Silva, especially in that southpaw stance. There'll be an open stance where Silva can land his strong body kicks, his right hooks, and he can land his left hand, or in a clinch he can land his knees and elbows in the clinch. And with his creativity that he still has and his killer instinct, and is able to land like a big flying knee or something like that. He attempted it on Israel Adesanya, but Adesanya obviously was aware of that, and he landed a killer knee on Michael Bisping back in the day as well. So I just think with experience, Anderson Silva will be back at the top of the division, and that's what I got. All right, now we got the main event: Doug Rose versus Jessica Andrade. Rose is coming off 2 big wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk by the former champ. It's been out for a while. She's been out for over a year or so. And Andrade is coming up over a bombing KO of Carolina Kowalkiewicz. And she's a real gritty fighter. This would be an excellent style matchup. Jessica Andrade is on a 3-fight win streak. She's like the John Lineker of the female strawweight division. Very marauding power style puncher. She comes forward. She doesn't really matter to her if she gets hit. She just throws hooks to the head and to the body as she's pressuring forward to her opponents. She had not much head movement. She'll use like a distance to avoid strikes. So she'll just step back and then she'll just come forward with some combinations. When she gets hit, you can tell she really doesn't like it. She grits, bites down her mouthpiece, and just drives forward and throws bombing hooks. And she really likes her left hook. Against her fight, she doesn't really cut the cage too well. In her fight, she follows her opponents and likes to cut that space off. So if opponents circling to their right, Andrade is an orthodox fighter. She'll try to close that space with her left hook. So she'll keep throwing 1, 2, or 3 of them to try to stop her opponent from circling out that direction. And if her opponent stops, she'll throw the right hand forward. And even sometimes she'll step through with her right leg and end up in a southpaw stance and throw from there as well. And in mid combination, she'll even throw those hooks, those bombing hooks from the parallel stance where both her legs are parallel with each other. When she's in the clinch, she likes to go with that Muay Thai clinch, which is pretty familiar down there in Brazil. So she'll look for those either knees, and she likes to throw her overhand right to land a bomb when she's in a clinch. Against the cage, she'll shoot doubles and single legs and just pick up and use her tremendous power to just slam her opponents to the mat. On the ground, she has very good ground and pound and looks to pass the knees and try to get into side control and land some good elbows and hammer fists down to her opponents. She's very strong down there as well, passing her opponents guard and getting them to scramble and really feel uncomfortable when she has her opponents down on the mat. Thug Rose is the defending strawweight champion in the female division. One of her main staples is definitely her movement and her footwork, that definitely keeps her out of danger from her opponents. She uses very good feints and good angle changes, which she's when she's moving out in space in there in the cage. She has a good jab, nice 1-2, in and out, nice L steps that she likes to use, and very good lead left hook that she uses to enter in on her opponents. And she also used that left hook to drop and KO Jacek in their first matchup. She stays off the center line with her lateral movement. She landed a really nice move against Johanna. It was like a stepping lead uppercut. She leaves a lead uppercut from the orthodox stance, stepping with her right leg out, landed an uppercut and circle out to that southpaw stance, and she would circle out to that new angle. She has experience in the 5th rounds now, and 5-round fight, and she looked very good in that whole 5-round fight against Johanna. She has pretty good takedown defense and very good subs off her back. She has a couple of submission wins in the UFC. She was taken down by Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, but she got to her back in that position and really used a good technique, and then passing the side control and landed some good ground and pound in that 2-round fight against Michelle Waterson, landing them elbows, and she's also defending a triangle and a submission attempt from Michelle, which shows me that she has very good top game as well as good bottom game in her MMA career. But my prediction for this fight is Thug Rose to retain her title by unanimous decision. I just think her movement, she'll be able to keep Andrade off her, using her kicks, using her front teep kick, either it be high kicks, using her jab and her angles. She just to confuse Jessica Andrade. She'll probably get taken down in this fight, but I think her jiu-jitsu game is good enough that she won't get finished down there on the ground or submitted on the ground, and then she'll be able to get back to her feet and land the more meaningful strikes and accumulate a strike count that'll end up ultimately giving her that unanimous decision. I think it'll be a very interesting matchup between both of these strawweight women. All right, let's take a look at some other matchups on the card, some other intriguing fights. We got BJ Penn versus Clay Guida. BJ Penn hasn't won since 2010 against Matt Hughes. He's on a 6-fight losing streak. Clay Guida lost his last fight by submission against Oliveira. He's on a 2. Prior to that, he was on a 2-fight win streak, and this is like his 27th UFC fight. Clay Guida has a crazy pace, and he'll put a high pace on BJ and probably look to take him down and get some ground and pound on BJ. And I don't know, man. BJ's definitely up there, and as far as fight age goes, he's way up there. So it should be a interesting match there. Then you got Thiago Alves versus Loreno Staropoli. Thiago Alves is a Muay Thai fighter. I believe Loreno is as well. But Thiago Alves has the experience on Loreno, who's just, they believe he had 1 fight in the UFC and his last fight to a decision. Then you got Francisco Trinaldo and Carlos Diego Ferreira. Trinaldo is a veteran in the UFC. In 2014 through 2016, he was on a 7-fight win streak. He probably should have been more well known to MMA fans. In his last fight, he looked good. He KO'd Dunham with a knee. And Diego's on a 4-fight win streak, 3 KOs in the UFC. He's a black belt, so this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup in Brazil. Alright, that's the end of my breakdown and prediction video. This is We Are Animals MMA. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to be on the lookout for some of my upcoming projects. Peace.